up, everybody? Welcome back to PG Sports Podcast. Our special guest today is Oliver Macklin. He played at UConn. He's now a WNBA and an NBA agent. He was also in The Last Dance for a brief cameo, and we're going to discuss all that good stuff. Let me get him in here. Hey, what's up?
What's up, Paul? Can you hear me?
Yeah. You hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, cool. How's everything going?
Everything's good, man. You know, given the circumstances that we're all living with right now, but I have no complaints at all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's go back in time a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your UConn playing days.
Man, it was a great experience. You know, initially UConn wasn't one of my top choices, and you know, glad things panned out the way they did. Because I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, going in as a freshman, we had the dream season year, and you know, we went 31-6, lost to Duke to go to the Final Four, but you know, we had an outstanding year that year, and that roster was comprised of about 8 guys from Connecticut, all blue collar guys, and you know, that's what kind of put us on the map. And you know, after that, we brought in guys from Florida, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona, Seattle. So things took off pretty much after that, you know. So some of my best friends, you know, still to this day on all those teams, you know, so it was a great experience all the way through.
Yeah, what did it mean to you to play for UConn, being it was your home state?
You know, so we always used to joke, you know, back in high school because, you know, UConn wasn't that big and they were on Channel 8 at the time. And you could see all the empty seats in the background, you know, when you watch the games on TV, and we're like, listen, I'm going to play for UConn. That was a running joke that we had around Bridgeport. And then when Chris Smith went there and they came down to the Sheen Center in Bridgeport to watch a practice, UConn came and had a practice at the Sheen Center because they were recruiting Chris Smith, and it was like starting to become a reality, like, oh, listen, this could possibly really happen, you know. And so getting there, and you know, there's no professional team here in Connecticut, you know, so we're very loved, you know, throughout the state, you know, by many of the folks, and you know, to be removed now, you know, 25 plus years and still be remembered by a lot of folks is, you know, is an awesome experience.
Yeah, and then that's what I was going to ask you too, like, how is it now, like, going back, like, so much has changed, like, I'm sure everything, like, from the dorms to the campus to the playing area to arenas.
Yeah, so, you know, my freshman year, we opened up Gamble. So we were the first team to play in there. And the first half of the season, we played in the field house, and then we moved into Gamble, and we opened up against St. John's in the Big East. And the energy in that building was incredible. Like, before the game even started, you know, the game, 20 minutes on the clock before, just warming up and shooting around, fans were yelling and cheering, and, you know, the proximity of the distance next to the person beside you can barely hear each other. That's how loud it was inside the building, you know. So that was great. And then we just watched the library change, parking garage, student union. The campus just blew up, you know, as the time went on. You know, they got apartments where there were woods now, and, you know, there's, you know, suites where 4 students share a suite with a common living area and things like that, which weren't there when I was there, you know. So it's, you know, it's like, even on East Campus, you know, you have tons of stores. Coach Ariema has a restaurant, and it's like everything on campus. Like, you don't have to leave to go anywhere, but it's grown so much. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you were playing when it was like Jim Calhoun's first, like, maybe like 5 years or so, like, coaching there.
So I got there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, like, what was your experience like as him as a coach?
So I got there, it was coach's 3rd year, and they had just won the NIT championship, you know. So once again, the Sheen Center in Bridgeport, we take a busload of kids down and we go watch UConn play at Madison Square Garden. And so that's one of my first time being in the Garden watching the game, and we were front row, you know. And, you know, just being in the Mecca of basketball, and one of our friends was like, yo, I wonder if the rims are like the same height here at the Garden. So this guy by the name of Doug Wilson, he walks out on the court and he jumps up and grabs the rim and comes and sit down. And we all just cracked up laughing. But, you know, so playing for Coach, you know, very demanding, and he had a vision that a lot of folks didn't see in Connecticut at the time. He didn't just want to be good and beat Fairfield and beat Hartford. He wanted to be the best in the Big East, and, my freshman year, that's when we won our first Big East championship, and that was at the Garden as well. And, I remember that day like yesterday. My parents were there. My mom and dad were standing on the scorer's table because the crowd just rushed the floor. It was like a wave of people. You can feel yourself swaying to the point where you can feel your legs go. Next thing you know, we're all on the ground, because everyone rushed the floor after we won that Big East championship game.
You still got the ring?
Unfortunately, I had an incident. My car caught on fire while I was in it. My son was about 3 years old, and my ring was in the ashtray. Like, we jumped out of the car in the middle of the highway on 95, and it just went up in flames. So I've been talking to folks at school about getting the ring back and, having another one made again, but no, I don't have mine.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Since you were like one of his first teams, like, could you tell like he was going to be like a Hall of Fame coach?
We weren't even thinking about it like that. It was just such a camaraderie of work and, friendship and, on and off the court. And that's why we excelled so well, because we didn't just hang with each other at practice. After practice, it was what time are we all going to get together later. After practice and then after study hall, we were all late at the lunch, at the mess hall together. We ate together and then we hung out together, So, and, Coach kind of created that atmosphere to make us like each other, to make us share the ball. And when things weren't going that way, he was very strategic about how he, found ways when he would switch teams up in practice and move folks around, just to make sure those who didn't like each other were in close proximity with each other, and they had to find a way to like each other because it translates to the games as well too.
Yeah. And I know you told me you were roommates with Scott Burrell. You guys are best friends. And so what was that relationship like? And then I just saw that you guys were like Ray Allen's like host, right?
Yeah. So first, me and Scott, we were the two Connecticut guys in our class. There's myself, Scott, Terreno Walker, a kid by Martin Smith, and the Dove Hennefeld. So Scott and I, the two Connecticut guys, run together, and Terreno and Martin run together. And the Dove, coming from Israel, he was by himself. So Scott and I had that bond. We didn't know each other in high school, even though we were like 20 minutes away from each other. I watched them play in high school when they came to Bridgeport to play against Bassick, and we laugh about that because, Bridgeport, as we know, is a tough city to play for. And back then, in the late 80s, that was a difficult place for Hamden High to come play. So Hamden came down, and Scott at the time, strong athlete, he set a pick on one of their players, and the kid left on the stretcher. I think he broke kid Louis Kitchen's ribs, and the whole crowd starts chanting, "Oh, you did it. Now you gonna get it," And so they had to get an escort, out of Bassick High School. They were throwing rocks at the bus, shaking the bus, and they were trying to get out the parking lot. So he remembers that, and we laugh about that all the time. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, what's up with what do you think now is the case? Like, I know you said you guys had a lot of Connecticut guys. I feel like either, I don't know if they don't recruit or the players from Connecticut just don't go to UConn anymore.
It's a little of both, Now that we're back in the Big East, if we have some highly touted players, in the area, I'm sure, they'll look back at Connecticut. We lost on a guy like Tremont Waters. We lost out on Mustafa Heron, when they were coming up, but we weren't in the Big East at the time, and in order to win, you need guys like them, pros, to continue to win, and you need a very nice conference, that attracts those guys, Yeah,
mm-hmm. I've seen all the alum just like pumped that you guys are back in the Big East.
Yeah, we missed Big East weekend down at Madison Square Garden. All the alum goes back. We all go watch. Is another mini reunion for us because we all get together and go to the games to support UConn. So as the hashtag said, we all bleed blue, and we want to see things continue to get back to the way they used to be, and for the team to be successful again. And Coach Hurley's got it moving in the right direction, so we're optimistic that that's going to happen.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like you guys showing Ray Allen around UConn.
Yeah. So Ray came, it's funny. My sophomore year, we're playing North Carolina State, and we're down there, we're at practice, and Chris Smith goes, coach is recruiting all these bony, skinny kids. So we're in the locker room, and these two thin kids, one's long and 6'11", and the other one's Ray. They come on. We didn't know who they were at the time. The other one was Kevin Garnett, So the two of them come into the locker room, down there as they were being recruited. And, Kevin Garnett, ultimately goes to the league, and Ray comes to Connecticut. But one of the things that Ray saw about UConn was how close we were as a team and as a unit, and that's what brought most of the guys there, So, we were his hosts. We took them around and showed them a good time and brought them to, the campus parties and things. That's sort of like we do all the recruits, and had a good time. And he saw how much we enjoyed each other outside the court, and, he said ultimately that was one of the things that drew him to UConn. I want to say he visited Alabama, one of the schools, and, they basically just left him there, the guys who were his hosts, and didn't really show him around, and that's kind of the experience you don't want when you go on a recruiting visit. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then take me to the. I know you just appeared in the Last Dance, little cameo. First of all, what was your reaction? I know you said you thought you might be in it. What was your first reaction?
It's funny. My son kind of blew the surprise. He let it out the bag earlier to a lot of folk, but I knew it was going to be in there, following around them in that 98 season. It was awesome. And the cameras were everywhere, So I didn't know when it was going to happen in this documentary or some other time, but I was on tour with those guys, every time they came to town, their first game against the Boston Celtics, Scott calls, he has tickets. I jump on the highway. I grab John Gwynn in Weathersfield, and, we shoot up to the Boston Garden. They eventually lose that game, which was funny. And I remember Mike after the game was like, I don't know what the whole uproar is about. They're acting like we're still not going to win this championship just because we lost this one game, And, just to be on that path and journey with them, it was a phenomenal experience. It was like being with the Beatles or Michael Jackson or something.
Yeah.
Like they had an entourage of folks and fans just like following them everywhere, So, but to be around that, throughout that year was awesome. I was kind of selfishly upset that they won the game in Utah because I wasn't out there. I was waiting for them to come back to Chicago so I can be there for the championship game, but, it didn't play out like that.
Yeah. Just what do you think about the documentary so far?
Man, it's been great. It's especially for the younger generation right now who didn't get to see Mike. Like most of them know Mike for the sneaker releases, you know what I mean? So they don't know Michael Jordan, the player, but just to see his drive and determination, compiled with his skill and athletic ability and how hard he worked, knowing he was the best and very good at it. He didn't just settle for being, I got me 3 championships, I'm good. He always was working and achieving to, be the victor every time.
Yeah. I don't know how much it's going to resonate with kids, but I think the Dennis Rodman playing is important because it showed you don't have to score 1 million points to be an all-star and high-paid player and get to the league. Yeah,
and one of the other things is just the competitiveness that happened. So even in the 80s in high school, I had best friends all around Bridgeport when we played against each other, and if I lost to them, it'd probably be 3-4 days a week before I spoke to them again. That's just how upset you would be. Seriously, that's just how it was. This generation, I guess, social media, they're all cool and in contact is okay. After the game, I didn't even want to shake their hand, say goodbye, and I went on my own separate way. So, and that's kind of what you see, with the situation with him and Isaiah, and they talk about the situation with Magic and Bird, and you saw the the torch get passed, amongst those guys. My favorite player was Dr. J coming up, so getting to see him out there and see him play, and then Mike comes along, so even prior to UConn, because of Michael Jordan, I loved North Carolina, you know what I mean? So you got to figure in 82, we're 5th, 6th grade, North Carolina was the school to go to. Everybody, was loving the Tar Heel Blue. And obviously I go to UConn, and that kind of faded away until my sophomore year. We're playing North Carolina down at the Dean Dome in Chapel Hill. And so we go into practice, you look up at the sky, everything's baby blue. You see all the names on the rafters. You see Jordan, you see Worthy, you see Woods, Sam Perkins, everything's just hanging from the ceiling. in the North Carolina game. So I'm at the half court, grabbing the ball out the basket, and Coach Calhoun's talking to Dean Smith. And Dean Smith goes, "Hey, Oliver, how you doing?" Talk about one of the best moments in my life. I almost lost it right then. I couldn't believe Dean Smith knew my name. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh. So first thing I do at the practice, I run to the payphone. I call my mom. I'm like, "Mom, Dean Smith knows my name. He said hi, Oliver." Dean Smith knows. It was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah. So we played them. We're up like 18 at the half, and feeling pretty good. In second half, it got so loud in there, and you could just see a baby blue. We wound up losing by 5 or 6 points, but they came back and they beat us. So that made for a long road trip after that. When we lost, things didn't go too well. So, but it was a good time though.
Yeah, I got you. Hold on, let me exit out and re-add you in because you're like blurry right now.
Okay.
All right. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Wait till he gets back in. I don't even know. I don't even think it's people's internet anymore. I think it might be just Instagram, but it's crazy. These are great stories. Let's see. Let me add him back in. Connecting. There you go. Yeah, we're back.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So what about going into your post career? How'd you like what made you want to be like an NBA and WNBA agent?
Love the game. The game has showed me the world. Took me to some places I never expected I would go to. Had it not been for basketball and scholarship, the likelihood of me going to college, I really don't know if that would have happened. I'm one of 9, kids at home, and I was the first person to go to a 4-year school and graduate out of my family. And, I was very grateful and thankful that I was able to attain a scholarship to be able to do that. But, wanted to stay around the game, due to my relationships. I had a chance to get in the gym and work out with some of the best, get a quote unquote unofficial look. And I quickly realized why some of the players who were in the league, why they were there, So and I thought I was pretty good. I made shots, and then I got in the gym with some of these guys, and they didn't miss. I remember working out with Lucius Harris, and this is when he was in New Jersey, and we're playing and holding my own, but this dude couldn't miss. Everything he threw up went in. You know what I mean? So it's just a clear understanding of why these guys were so special and coveted by, some of the NBA teams. But I just wanted to stay around the game and continue to, be a part of the game and see the world and, talk to some friends and some folks. And that's when I got involved with the agency and, started building relationships. So the first couple of years that I was an agent, it was kind of funny. Like I didn't want to say the word because there were so many negative connotations that come along with an agent. All I knew were the bad things, like they're all crooks and dirty, So, so I had to learn to do things the right way, my way, and which is untraditional. Most guys, will link up with another agency and use their resources, then they'll jump off and go do their own thing and take players with them. So I've done it from the ground up on my own, and I do it the way I want to do it, and it's worked well for me. And don't want everybody, can't have everybody, and just want to be able to give everybody the necessary attention that they all need. I have to treat all my players like, they're the ultimate. They're Diana Taurasi and LeBron's in my agency, whoever they are.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I don't know if you're like, I think one of like maybe, I don't know, like 10 or 20 agents that's certified in both. So what made you want to do WNBA too?
So the girls wasn't as dirty, early on. You know what I mean? So when you doing the guys side, you had to be involved with these players, by the time they touch high school. If you didn't, you were too late in regards to having a chance of representing them. And on the girls side, it didn't work that way. So I had some interesting girls, and, I had a partner at the time, and he would represent the woman. And the parents would say, "Oliver, when are you going to get your WNBA license?" Because they wanted me to work with their child, I didn't get it at the time, but when I lost 1 or 2 of them because they went somewhere else, they're like, "Listen, man, I told you to get your license, that's what I was trying to tell you for. She wanted to work with you." So at that moment, I went and got my license, and, this has been smooth sailing since then.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, like I said, I don't think there's that many that have both. So you got something there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
what about Oh, actually, I forgot to ask you. Like, has it been funny? Because I know Scott Burrell been getting a lot of media attention now. He's like the
Mhm.
like every so episodes he has a little snippet and it just goes viral. So like, what have you been like as his friend? Like, have you just been like laughing at it?
Oh yeah, we're laughing at it. We talk just about every other day, if not every day about it, and the different things. He's trending now on Twitter. He's
Yeah,
on Sports Center. I think he's doing an interview with TMZ today. So um, you got to think that team had 15 players on it. And as you watch the
yeah,
documentary, his name comes up pretty often, and he's the one
yeah,
being interviewed. You don't see too much of Tony Kukoc. He's had a tidbit here or there, but besides Pippen, Rodman, Scott's been talked about a lot, throughout the series.
yeah.
So in that last year, he was a guy who was guarding Mike every day in practice. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy too because that was only his only year there, right?
Yeah, that was his
With the
only
Bulls.
year, that 98 season. So their first round was against the Nets, and Scott played really well. And, after the Bulls team disseminated, he wound up signing with the Nets the following year, So funny
Yeah,
how those things work. Yeah.
yeah, definitely crazy. Yeah, did he know? Do you know if he thought he was going to be in it like this much?
Yeah, they called him because
Oh, okay,
they
yeah,
wanted to ask him certain questions, things that so he knew the parts that he was going to be in, and
I
things
got
that
you.
were going to be, Brought forward. But it was fun. It's hilarious, just to get to
Yeah,
watch and see it all play out all over again.
yeah. I mean, the crazy thing is too. Now thinking about it, like thinking about like filming a documentary now, that's like normal to us. But like back then, like that's not really normal. Like to film a whole
Yeah,
season like that.
yeah, yeah. So like I said, the cameras were everywhere, So Chuck Daly, rest his soul, he was right there. You get to see the personality of Rodman and all the different outfits he would wear every game. Like that was entertaining in itself, just seeing what he was going to wear to the game.
Yeah,
Fluorescent green pants with a yellow blazer. So it was kind of funny to watch all of that. But when they got between the lines, they competed.
yeah.
They knew they were there to entertain and win a game. And then afterwards, they were all their own individual people.
Gotcha. Have you had any combos with the Rodman?
Yeah, we saw Rodman. Like he was his own dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So couple of guys we hung out a few times. After games and they won some victories. And it's funny. We're in a bar one night and you can just see the crowd of people just shift wherever Rodman went. So like everyone would be in that one area where he was. He literally not walk. He'd run to another end of the bar, and then you just see a whole crowd of people just shift and go follow him. Take his shirt off, swing his shirt around, drinks for everybody. So yeah, it was, once again
that's funny.
entertaining.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to you being an agent. We're going all around like the documentary does.
It's all right.
That's the only thing I don't like about the documentary. I think it goes too much. I like the back and forth, but like I think it goes too much back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of throws you off. If you
Yeah,
aren't an avid basketball fan and don't know, his career history, you'd be like, hold up, this is a match, and it's not adding up a little bit. But you really got to
yeah,
sit there and, run to the bathroom on the commercial break and get back so you don't miss anything.
yeah. Oh yeah. Somebody asked. I don't know if you get answers. Did you know Steve Kerr was going to be a great coach?
Steve Curry played at Arizona, had a high IQ, could really shoot the ball, and when you play for Hall of Fame coaches, you pick up Hall of Fame information, so outside of being a very good player, you sit and you learn, sometimes I'm sure guys who've played for excellent coaches can watch games and have their 2 cents, as far as when a sub should be made, who's coming out the game, or what change should be made because you've seen this stuff from the folks that you sat under. So I'm sure I knew he was going to be a great coach. Everyone says, oh, he inherited some of the players. Well, who doesn't? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So they still got to buy into what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. All right. Now going back to your agency. Like what do you, now with like coronavirus? Like what is like how do you think it's going to play out like this next season? I guess like overseas and stuff like that.
So everybody's, very optimistic that things are going to start, slowly moving back to the new normal, So things will probably pick up a little bit faster in the European market because they were exposed to it first, so they're a little bit further ahead than us in regards to, making the changes and adjustments as we move forward. So very optimistic that that'll come along, obviously, because of the termination of the seasons this year, budgets and things of that sort are going to change for a lot of the players. So, team salaries are going to drop like 30 to 40%, from what they were this past year, unfortunately. So until things get back to the way they used to be.
Yeah. I mean, you think the NBA season's going to come back or not?
Well, they're hopeful. Once again, everything is financial, and you got to make that balance of finances and safety. So I'm sure the league would like to complete some sort of a season to salvage some of the monies, but you got to make sure your clientele and everyone's going to be safe, and their families and everyone else that comes in contact with them. So that's what it all boils down to. But with them extending the agreement that they had with the television contract, for another to the end of September, just shows that they're still trying to work something out to, save the season.
Yeah, I'm hoping they could just go into the playoffs.
I'm sure that's on the table, but what we want to see a good quality of play. Guys have been off for some time, everybody's doing their home regimen, stretching and doing as much workout as they can. But, we're talking about the best athletes in the world. We don't want to see anybody get hurt and not be ready to go. That's why they have preseasons, to kind of ramp up for, the grueling season that they're going to have. So just want to make sure, we're seeing a quality level, of play once and if it does happen.
Yeah. Like I've been saying, I think like golf and maybe like tennis are going to be like the ones that are definitely going to come back. It's like non-contact.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
I'm thinking like golf and tennis are going to come back.
Yeah, in Connecticut, they kept the courses open, and that's where a lot of folks have spent their time, but the vaccine will come. We've seen this happen before, in history, well, not personally seen it, but we've heard about how these things have happened. And once the vaccine comes along and, everybody starts adjusting to it, things eventually work its way around. But, the scientists and the studies and the doctors say, sometimes it takes a year and a half, 2 years before we can, really be back to the norm.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you want to answer this one. Someone asked, will you sign your son after college?
Will I sign my son after college? Absolutely. If he gets the opportunity to be able to play, on the next level, for sure, that'll definitely happen, So he just has to take it step by step, keep working, maintain his grades in the classroom and, work hard outside the classroom and, things will happen for him based on the work he puts in.
Yeah. How old is he now?
He's 17.
Oh, okay. So he's in high school.
Yeah, he's in high school. Yep. He's just finished his junior year at Notre Dame in Fairfield.
Oh, gotcha. So, so what's that like? You teach him some moves?
A little bit. I teach him how to shoot. He can handle the ball way better than I could ever have imagined handling the ball. So I played point guard, but I didn't have what they call handles. I can handle the ball. You're not going to take it from me, but my son can really handle the ball. So just, now teaching him when to give it up and when to keep it, and then just developing his shot off the dribble. So that's a lot of stuff that we work on. But he has a chance. But like I said, it's based on, whatever work he puts into the game, So it's all up to him.
Did you always played him one-on-one?
Up until about, let me see. He's 17 now. Probably stopped at like 14.
Yeah.
Like 14, yeah. We ended the game. It was tied up, and I saw that I was about to lose. So, pulled up lane.
There you go. That's what you know. But that's good, though.
Yeah.
Is UConn looking at him?
No, not just yet. He's not at that level just yet, but, he'll probably have to do a post-grad year after next year of high school, and then, we'll go from there. But, gotcha. Like I said, it all depends on the work he puts into.
Gotcha. And then, like, as an agent, what advice would you give to somebody that, wants to become an agent?
It's relationships. It's relationships and it's trust. You know what I mean? So the way I do things, I always make the separation of just leisure talk and business. So you can't, casually talk business and, try to sway somebody into something when they're thinking it's just a leisure conversation. That's me anyway. So my morals and ethics are a lot different than everybody else's. Like I said, I've worked with other folks, and I've seen a lot of the things that do take place out there in regard to trying to attract and get a player, which are the things I don't do. You know what I mean? So my morals are a lot different, and my trust is a lot different. That's why I'm by myself right now.
Yeah, I gotcha. What's your take on just like some of these high school players like getting almost too hyped up when they're like, say, like a freshman, they're like 14 years old?
It's tough, man. If they don't have the right guidance and the right person in their ear continuing to tell them to work, then, if you think you've already made it, there's a lot of very good players, at higher levels, whether it be college or the league. And they're not just letting some young kid come in there and, take that spot away from them when they're trying to feed their families, And sometimes it does happen if they're very good, but you have to always work. If you look at the league, if you don't come back with a little something different to your game each year, that's how you'll see the life expectancy of your career just phase out. So the average might be up to 4 or 5 years. Before it was like 3 years. So you see guys, the Kobe's and the KG's, and they play 17 years in LeBron's. That's not everybody. Those are the elite all-stars of the game, take care of the body and invest in their bodies, and they last a long time. But there's a lot of role players, who get 3-4 years in the league, and then that's it.
Yeah. Now, what's your take on this new G League? I think he's the number one player, and he signed with the G League instead of going to college.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's been so many talks about the NCAA and not giving the players their due worth, and when you have an opportunity to, if that's what you're ultimately trying to get, if you got the right parents and the right guidance behind you, and you take that opportunity and you do schooling online to work towards getting your degree, but still being able to be with the elite and play and improve on your game that way, that's going to be the new wave, So there's so many knocks on how the NCAA does things and limits folks, to the point where, I'm going back to when I was playing. When you're in college, yes, you have a scholarship, but if you don't make the cafeteria and you're hungry, it's very difficult, to get yourself a meal, especially if you don't have a parent who can, provide you with $20 so you can get a pizza. And then they don't allow you to work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't work at the student union for a couple hours a day, but you walk in there and you see your jersey with your number on it, but they're selling it, So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I think they're starting officially next year with the likeness thing, and you can make money off yourself, but you're not associated with the school and all this. There's a whole bunch of weird rules.
Absolutely.
I think the next 5 years, like just college sports, are going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have just gave players, $5,000 a semester stipend, people would have been excited and wouldn't have had any problem with that, and the conversation would have been changed a lot differently as we would have moved forward. But it was at the point where they weren't giving out anything. But March Madness, you make $980 million, in the month of March alone, So I know it killed the NCAA to have to cancel those games this year, but that's their biggest breadwinner, It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that's why when I knew this thing was real when they canceled March Madness, because I was like, there's too much money, and it was crazy.
Hey, if you think back, it was just 2 months ago, the Big East tournament, they had to cancel a game at halftime, They were trying to get those games in. Yeah.
That was strange. That was like almost, that was like a movie. That was like movie-like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I think but I mean I think the G League thing made them take that step in the direction too, with their new rule or whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely. Once again, families and people know, you see kids leave and they go straight to Europe. A couple of guys have done it straight from high school.
Yeah.
So now you can keep that kid here in the States, and have your eyes on him here in the States, and, our farm league here, as opposed to going to Europe. And it's a better adjustment for a kid who's 18 years old, who's not ready to be over in Europe, on his own just yet. Everyone doesn't have the ability to go and live with their kid, for 8 months in Europe. But here in the States, it's a little bit more accommodating for them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and it was great to have you. And, we'll be talking.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon. I appreciate it, Paul.
All right. I'll see you. Have a good one.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.